Tomolo ane sunde legu gene ane podcast na ta legend la ne penangi na thama ane computer station ni handa ane tude nyaro be tude de la ni niam de king gene thama ne su nangmi nyam yo ana ni nangmi nyam ni te thamo nge ro ta ni su tu ko na su su la ne tude na ne taje che se yo am tering on the sunde legu ge legend so de khacha na 아니 어린아마네 솔로분들아네 인슈 개당올라네 그 인슈 개념이 콘도이산에 냠용 이거 아니 근데 먼저 니도스나니 툭툭하나 아니 먼저 배바 개하네요나 이제 아니 배바 어린아요 콘도라네 또 페마요에 가지고 아니 공부는 지금들한테 this 사무진이 폰에 고토인가 아니 대리는 냠도 용해되는 나 냠도 용해되네 그 추정 차도 아니 근데 추정 안에 탈로 안에 이런 유슈기에 진짜 고했네 고았네 스탠포드 유니버시티 안에 로그는 체베 니 추정만 테스트레 아니 카슈에나 야 카슈에나 다 나도 리뷰는 안에 이 인치 this common 프리스타일에 아니다 내가 최도 최다 안에 저도 된다디 인도 되네 소 되네 인지라네 인지 부족한 리뷰드 체인 춘도만 테스트레
테스트레 긴제 토지나 아니 테스트레 미 참말로 예밍 겐지 춘좀이 아니 nga tanda luptui arila nga Florida la ke hine nga San Diego California la lochoke la dede ani 얘기 낭미부로 예쁘고 nga 당부이 근데 랍도 드네 근데 college 드네 아니 nga 아리기 토나 근데 리지고레 low income student 지고레 안 단다 러기요 같이 디스 캐치부요레 얘기 제대로 되시 줍디고 아니 당가 follow 단다 Stanford University 드라이 computer science the 총념도 장야.
Right. So I mean we want to proceed our short podcast with to English. So yeah, thank you so much for your introduction. So my first question would be like, how would you talk about your experience for applying colleges here in the U.S.?
So it was a bit difficult. My parents never went through the process, so it was up to me to figure out most things. And I did have help with my friends and mentors, but overall it was a bit difficult. And there was a lot of things to keep track of, like your common application essays, the deadlines, test scores, and FAFSA. But in the end, I managed. And that was through always remembering the deadlines. And it was a long and tiring process, but in the end, it taught me a lot about myself, my interests, and it helped me outline what my future can look like. It also taught me, more importantly, how I can present myself to a group of people.
Yeah, I mean, it's like quite wonderful, like that, like you did most of the process by yourself, like taking responsibility by yourself, and that comes another question because I don't believe, and it's also my personal experiences that there were people that were really instrumental in making your college application successful. And so for you, who were the people, who were the kind of people, who were the kind of resources that were instrumental in helping you in this long process?
So for one, my English teachers helped me greatly throughout the process. My 11th grade teacher made us do an assignment to write out and draft our common application essay. And even though it was like a year before the actual process began, it helped me because that assignment, the essay that I used for that assignment was my actual common application that I ended up submitting. It went through a lot of revisions, and my English teachers, both 11th and 12th grade, helped me throughout the process and helped me revise. Someone else who also helped me greatly was my college counselor at my school, who introduced me to Questbridge, which is a scholarship program for low-income, high-achieving students. And it's you compete to potentially get a full ride at one of their partner schools, which are some of the top schools in America. She encouraged me to apply to very tough schools and she never doubted me. So that was extremely important to have someone supporting me there when I doubted myself.
Yeah, so I mean, like, especially for me, like, college counselor were like like, the gods in this kind of process. Like, because for me, I realized, like, most of the time to my college counselor, I like totally, like, sometimes I had too much faith in the college counselor. Um, so, but during this very lengthy process, I believe you also had made mistakes just as I did, and I think many of our peers made a lot of mistakes through this long, stressful process. Should I describe? So, what would be the 5 mistakes that you should avoid in this application process?
Mm-hmm. Like you said, I also made a lot of mistakes throughout the process. And so I'll start off with the first one. Don't start late. I suggest you start thinking about the college process at the start of your junior year or the year before you apply. You don't want to submit anything like on the day that it's due. Number 2, don't do things to only boost your resume or your application. It's important to highlight your achievements, but don't go through high school only doing things to make yourself look good on your application or try to get into your dream school. High school is the time to try new things and discover your passions. So your accomplishments should stem from those passions. And when you write about them, you don't want to make it sound meaningless and list them and sound like a brag or a boast rather than a proud achievement and a learning moment. College admissions officers know which students do certain things only to make themselves look good on their applications versus students who do things because they love it and they are interested in it, and it shows in their essay. Number 3, don't believe that getting into your dream school is the only way you can succeed. Um, Remember that you can achieve success at whatever school you go to as long as you have the will and the passion. And throughout the whole application process, try to have a bigger goal in mind that reaches beyond the 4 years in college, because colleges would much rather want to learn about your personal goals and how they can help you rather than what you can do for them only at that school and what you've done and so on. It's much better to have a goal in mind and then explain how that school can help achieve your goals because it helps them as well. And number 4, don't put off scholarship searching. When the college application process starts, so do many other competitive scholarship programs start. At least in the US, there's a lot of national scholarships that people apply for. And if you know that you're going to need financial aid when you go to college, it's important to start thinking about how you're going to finance your education early on, during the same time that you're researching these schools. So think realistically, make a list of scholarships, talk to your counselor or whoever will help you, talk to your teachers about recommendations, and start the scholarship application essays early. And number 5, make sure that you sound like yourself and that you're not focusing too much on other people. Sometimes people write about people who've inspired them or like their role model, their sibling, their parent, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. Just make sure that you're not focusing too much on that other person, that it takes away from your own learning experiences and what you've learned and your growth. Also, don't write in a way that doesn't sound like you. If you're not funny, don't force jokes. If you don't use fancy words normally, don't try to bunch them all in your essay. And also, along with focusing on yourself, try not to compare yourself to others during this process. You'll see a lot of statistics such as acceptance rates, test scores being passed around by your peers. And although people always get stressed up about those things, those do not define you, nor do they guarantee any spot in any school. A lot of schools are starting to care less about the test scores, and it's still important that you try your best on them, but those should not be the reason why you don't apply to a school.
Yes, I mean, like exactly, like I mean, I had like several friends, like I mean, even my some of my close relatives, they were telling me, can they apply to this school, like without really thinking about what kind of programs that school has and what kind of reputation and what kind of things go inside the school, and I personally I was like affected by it, and also you really it's worth noting that like for many of us, like without financial aid, like colleges is like a luxury for us. It's really important that you noted that how much important it is for you to start looking for financial aid, and then of course importantly to make your deadlines, uh, don't miss them, and like be on time, or as best you can do it like early before finishing it. So I mean, we are Tibetans, and I think we are sort of like a different people in this country. And when you are doing your like application essays and interviews, what kind of aspect of your Tibetan identity that really stood you out from other candidates or other applicants?
Yeah, okay, great question. So, in writing my essays, I found common themes which were helping others, my Tibetan heritage and experience, and my academic interests. So, for my common application essay, I talked about Tibetan Buddhism and business. Those are two parts of me which I really enjoy, although one is more materialistic than the other, and it's kind of odd. So in my essay, I talked about the struggles between the two and how I found a way to coexist with both of them and see how my learnings in Tibetan Buddhism can translate into better business, better ethics, and solutions for humanity that stem from my interests in computer science and innovation. More specifically, I talked about how the college can help me achieve that goal. So I had a couple essay questions for my college applications about community, and that's where I think my Tibetan heritage stood out. Um, and I talked about growing up as a Tibetan in San Diego, where there's barely any other Tibetans. It's a very small community, so I talked about growing up as one of the only Tibetan kids in the community for a very long time, as well as being the only Tibetan in all of my schools and throughout my whole educational career. But I also focused on how that Tibetan community shaped me, how it inspired me, how it taught me many things, and how language also helped me engage with the community. And this also helped me realize that I wanted to give back to the community and help the Tibetan community in other ways as well. So I talked about that in that essay. In my Stanford interview, I was lucky enough to have a very open person, and I was able to talk about anything from my interest in computer science to Buddhism. And he literally asked me to talk about Buddhism and my Tibetan heritage. So that was also a place where being Tibetan stood out. And that
Yeah,
interview was also an opportunity to show my personality and present the face behind the essays, which is extremely important for any school.
yeah. I mean, that's really I think in my 2 years here in this country, like that was the story that I really hear, just as you mentioned about being a Tibetan, very like kind of non-Tibetan neighborhood, and you're the only kid who are Tibetan, and others Tibetan you see are only adults, and that is a very tough time to be in. And so, I mean, so both of us are first generation college students, and I believe both of us faced a lot of struggles and hurdles that were presented because we didn't have a lot of resources on our hands. So, what would you describe in terms of the struggles you had with the resources that other people had and that you didn't?
One struggle that I had was with standardized testing. I was never the best at these SATs, but I found ways, cost-friendly ways to study for these exams using online resources like Khan Academy, YouTube, previous exams, and um, prep books that were a little less expensive, rather than paying for tutoring. Going to a wealthy private school as a low-income first-generation student was a struggle because there was a lot of competitiveness for my peers, and the college counseling resources didn't go over financial aid as much. Thankfully, in applying to that private high school, I already gained experience in applying for schools and reapplying for financial aid every year. So I had that experience, but it was still difficult because a lot of my peers around me, they were like, oh, yeah, my parents did my financial aid. Or I sat down with my dad to do my FAFSA, whereas I was handed my parents' tax documents, and I flipped through them and did everything on my own. And there's a lot of students who do that. It was just a little bit difficult when you go to a school where there's not a lot of people who, need financial aid. um, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's also I think we share a lot of similar experiences. Like for me, even all this doing all those financial aid documents were like your own like personal stuff to do, and it took a lot of time. And yeah, while my other peers, when I asked them, they would say my parents did it. They just didn't have to do a lot of things, and I think in that respect, and especially for you, like applying for the high school by yourself and all those other things, I think it's something that we should be proud of. Yeah, so thank you so much for having for coming here, and I think I would it would really benefit a lot of Tibetan Americans and other Tibetan exile about applying to schools in the U.S. And 타마들안에 춘정라는 표 투지체 먼저 안 스탠드 레뷰네 모투네 근데 레뷰백에네 러시아에 아니 고네에 켜도 야고 쉬어자는 춘정 먼저 아니 스탠드 레뷰나에 마비기다 칼로다 먼저 가지고 레바나는 디고레 먼저 레바 시스요라 레바 시는 직접 샤워래 아니 표 투지체 아니 먼저 모투네 레차데네 그저 주에네 모투네 치에네 정말 안에 정말 깨지죠요. 그지나.
Los touchdown. 아니, the montada I want to make 3 points that helped me throughout my college application process. For me, I did the financial aid work first, so everything was very easier afterwards. And then second, I made sure that I found whatever resources I could to research more about the college, not just on the college website. So look at tour videos. There's a lot of YouTube videos about students who go there, the pros and cons of the school, and actual students who go there. So it's important to listen to their experiences and understand what a campus is like or what the social life is before you apply. And also, throughout my college application process, I had a community of the Questbridge finalists who talked a lot about their own struggles, but were also very supportive, and helped revise essays and went over interview process and tips. So yeah. And
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I think in that respect, I think like for us to explore colleges, it should be like more rigorous research process rather than like just looking at the acceptance rate or what kind of SAT target or what kind of GPA you should have. So I think, yeah, what you talked to us here today was very valuable, and thank you again for coming here. Thank you, Chonzom.
Thank you for allowing me to talk and make this interview happen. Thank you so much.